Hey everybody, it's your man James, Mr. Quant Treasures, back again with some more video action for you. Today's another jaunt into the realm of artistry as we do a little artistry appreciation. And for all those you new here who don't know what that is, artistry appreciation, where I take a piece of art from my personal comic collection that I own or have owned, and I talk about why it's so cool and why I felt the need to have to possess that thing. And this one's gonna be been influenced by the Why It's Great I just posted the other day. So it's going to be kind of like a themed here this week with all these videos coming out here with all this stuff. So let's get on into it. And but before we do, I want to thank you all for joining me today and say that if you like what you see here, drop a like down there to help out the algorithms. That always is helpful. And also, if you got any comments about the art or anything I say here, please be sure to drop some comments on it because I always want to hear what the folks got to say. Your words matter here. Maybe not so much with the guys in the mainstream media in the mainstream industry today, but they do with me. So drop some comments. I always like hearing from you guys. Also, be sure to share out some links and bring some new people in so they can check this stuff out and maybe make some new fans of this stuff because it's always a good thing to have more than less. And if you haven't subscribed, be sure to subscribe yourself so that way you don't miss any of the content that I'm putting out here on the semi-regular. And with that, let's get into it. Today's artist to be appreciated is the great Jim Aparo. And as you guys know, I just did a Why It's Great featuring Jim Aparo's work on a Batman issue. And again, it must be a theme. Maybe it's just how I'm feeling lately, but we're gonna roll with this. And so we got some nice, sweet art from an Aparo story that is a very integral and very well known and even somewhat controversial story that he did. Yes, I know. Yeah. What is it? What is it, James? What's it from? What's it going to be? Well, let's get on into that. So first, we're going to get me off the screen, and then we'll bring up the art when we share the screen. And there we go. There it is, Batman 418, page 6, from the 10 Nights of the Beast storyline. And let's as always, let's big it up for you guys so you can see even more detail. And again, like this page, now some people would look at this page and think, well, it's no big deal. Look, there's no Batman on it. There's no KGB. There's no action. Why is this such a big deal to you? Well, sometimes it's a more quiet scene that has more impact than a big action sequence, And I think people don't think about those things, but you get, there's a scene right here. I love this right here with all the faces. Again, just like I said in the Why It's Great, Aparo and faces are just epic. He's had such a way of, even without a single bit of dialogue, and just the looks on their faces says everything. But what's happening in the scene here is there's a luncheon, and there's all these people from the government there and we're having a discussion, and all of a sudden, President Advisor Wilder never gets a chance to make his speech, and it's just face into the soup. And you see the reaction of Jim Gordon here. He's just going crazy, pulls out his gun, and you can see even other people are dying all over the place. What's going on? Well, what happened here is to get one man, the KG Beast, disguise himself as part of the catering crew and poisoned the food, killing dozens of innocent people just to get one target. That is how ruthless this guy is. And again, that's what this shows. Jim Starlin's story, he's showing you how ruthless this guy is. But Aparo's art, just again, look at the faces. It looks like they're choking. There's people screaming in pain. It's just such highly detailed work. And again, like I said, I know some people, don't care for Mike DiCarlo's inking on Aparo, but for me, these guys are like a team supreme. This is like your Yankees team. What is it, the 29 Yankees? That's like who these guys are, man. They're the 29 the Yankees of 20 or 2023 or whatever year that was that the Yankees were like the greatest team ever. These guys got that vibe. And again, it's so amazing how with all these little panels, they get so much story in there, and even without dialogue, like I said, this row of faces, it doesn't, there's not a single bit of dialogue telling you who these people are. You probably know Jim Gordon, but that'd be about it. But all these people, and yet their faces tell you everything you need to know about them, everything you would want to know about them. It's all right there, written in their faces. And then the catastrophe strikes, murder most foul, and just this was a very controversial story at the time when it came out. This is where I came into Batman. In fact, issue 417, part 1 of this was the very first Batman comic I ever bought off the spinner racks. So I came in with the KG Beast and the 10 Nights of the Beast storyline. This is where I came in with Batman. And so, to me, to have a page from that epic storyline is just, I can't tell you how indescribably great it feels to own this page, even though there's no Batman on it, even though there's no KG Beast proper on it, although we do feel his presence. I still, this is just an incredible page to own. And again, look at the crisp cleanness in Jim Aparo's line work. I mean, every face is completely different. Nobody looks alike. It's not like how some artists, maybe they just got like maybe 2 different styles of faces they do, and that's everybody looks that way. No, everyone here is completely individualized. Nobody looks like anybody else, and that's hard to do. That's like a skill that you can't really be taught as an artist. I mean, it's something you either develop, that you're able to do lots of different, variations on faces, or you don't develop it. It's not something that's like, I don't think it's something that's like a lot of teachers, like if you went to art school, they're going to teach you this. Oh, here's how you do these kind of faces. They're just going to say, here's how you do faces. And then that's about it. And then it's up to you from that point on. And you either have the drive and skill to do like Aparo does right here in this strip of faces where everybody looks different, or you don't have it. And, in comics, you understand it sometimes because it is production line art. It is commercial art. So, you got people who they don't want to have to worry about doing all the different styles of faces and doing make sure everybody looks different from everybody else. They just kind of want to quick get it in there, make the hero look like the hero and maybe the villain. And, and then maybe like one other person who maybe is close to the hero, like his damsel in distress or his best friend or sidekick. They're the ones you want to make sure you get those faces right. But then all the people in the background, just do quick faces that just all look alike. It doesn't matter. It's not that important. But, and maybe it isn't sometimes, but sometimes it is. And when it is, you need to be able to know how to do this. And Aparo shows you he knows how to do this. And again, just the scene of it all, the way it's all coming together. Again, his camera angle choices, his panel layouts that he does here. I mean, it's, it drives the story, everything's okay at first, even though you got all the faces looking with concern. And then you can see the concern was more than warranted. And again, just a great way of spotlighting, the storytelling abilities of Jim Aparo right here. And again, just the face right down into the soup, splashing it all over. I mean, it's funny and horrific at the same time, like pie in the face right here. But it's kind of funny. But when you're reading it and you see the reasons why it's happening, and what the story of it is, with the KG Beast, it's not funny. It's horrific. Again, just like Jim Gordon's expression right here. That's what it is. And so it's, again, blending that stuff, like something that would normally be seen as comedic, but making it horrific. That's, again, another skill that you can't really be taught. It's something you have to develop on your own. And that's what I've seen in a lot of Jim Aparo's art I've seen over the years, is a lot of little tricks, little things like this, different faces, inverting the expectations of how to make something look. And, it's all stuff that he probably developed on his own. He wasn't taught this in art school. This is what he learned, what he developed over time as a sequential artist. And this is just, again, just a masterclass. I mean, if you are an artist yourself and you want to know how to lay out a good page to keep the pace rolling and to have lots of very detailed expressiveness in it, this is what Jim Aparo does. This is the masterclass. This page right here is the masterclass of that. And so if you haven't checked it out, this is what you need to do. And again, I love all the little touches. DeCarlo is good because he never overpowered Aparo's pencils. Like you see, like here, the thick line right here around the heads for the hair and stuff. That's what you need. And like right here, I like this right here with the fuzziness look here on the head, but it doesn't take away from Aparo's work. He doesn't make it look like this, because some inkers, they come in real heavy on you, and it's almost like they make the work look like their own work. Like, Kevin Nolan is a guy who, like, when he inks you, your art's going to look much more like Kevin Nolan than it's going to look like you. Or like, Tom Palmer was good for that. People call it being palmerized. He comes in and he just goes over you and it makes you look more like his style than your style. But that doesn't happen with DeCarlo. I like that. He's got a softer touch, putting the shadows in and the blacks in where they need to be, but then letting everything else breathe and be open. He doesn't over detail it. He doesn't under detail it. He lets it breathe. And that's, again, another skill that you can't really be taught. You either have the ability to learn that on your own or you don't. And he definitely did. And again, to me, it's why him and Aparo are a team supreme. These guys show you how it should be done. And again, just a great dramatic sequence right here, just shocking. It slaps you and wakes you up. It goes from everything is okay to suddenly terror. And that's real life too. That's how life can be sometimes. You're going along and everything's fine, and suddenly, bang, it hits, just like this. And again, it's what made this story so compelling is the way that they played this up. And you can see here when we get the color version. You can see here that it does. Again, this is another case where I feel like the colors don't really help as much as some people would think they should. Like when you look at the black and white, and then you go to the color, it doesn't really feel like it adds very much, does it? And so I mean, again, but that shows you the power of the artist in this, is that their work has to stand on its own. They can't rely on a colorist to come in and save them the way some guys do today. Some guys today, they go in expecting that colorist with his computerized coloring and all those gradations they can do now because of computers and everything else to come in and save the work so it don't look like crap. But, back in this day, back in 1988, when this issue was out, Jim Aparo, or 87, I think this was 87. Yeah, this was 87. And, Aparo and DeCarlo didn't have that luxury of hoping the colors would save them. They had to bring it themselves. And that's what they did here. And so, like, while the colorist doesn't take anything away, I don't think, from them, but it doesn't really add anything either. And that's why you need to know the fundamentals in storytelling and in visual storytelling and in these little tidbits that I've been pointing out to you, not just in this one, but in past Artist Appreciation, the little tricks they do sometimes, the things they do to enhance the art on their own. That's why you need those, because you can't be expecting a colorist to save you, because back in these days they really couldn't. And again, this is something that again just I kind of miss in modern work versus the older stuff, is that they don't they sometimes, I think, they rely on the colorists too much to try to save the work, to give it texture, to give it depth, to give it gravitas. And you shouldn't have to do that. If you are a good artist, you should be able to do that on your own in black and white. And Aparo and DeCarlo, yeah, they were on the par. They could do that. Again, like I said, just all the faces right here tell you they have those skills. They have what is necessary, so they don't need to be saved by a colorist. And then, of course, as always, I'll just give you the cover here so you can see. Yeah, now I know the cover date says April of 88, but remember, folks, all this stuff was dated 4 months in advance at the time. So this actually came out in December of 87. I like this. I like how they changed the logo, because normally the logo would just be Batman's name up there, but like here they changed the logo to put in the 10 Nights of the Beast. And I love the bloody way they put the Beast's name in there. And again, this image by the great Mike Zeck, one of the greatest, probably the greatest cover artist of the 80s, someone might say, arguably. And I love the image, of Batman, trying to duck out from getting blasted. Just all these shots going, and you can see just no KG Beast on there, but you see the shadow, and you just know who that is. You know who this shadow is, and that's, again, a very potent image, and again, Batman's expression. Look at that. It's like anger mixed with shock, mixed with concentration. And I just love that. Again, Zeck's smooth softness, his curves of his lines, like here in the leg, I mean, just beautiful stuff. I mean, how could you see this cover on the newsstand looking back at you and you not want to pick it up? And that was, again, that was what Mike Zeck did best. He made you want to pick up a book just when you saw his cover. He didn't even do any interiors, but he did the cover, and you're like, oh, I got to check this out. So definitely great stuff. Like I said, this is from a classic, a controversial at the time Batman storyline, by Jim Starlin, and like I said, just Aparo and DiCarlo. They're at their pinnacle of their powers here. I think. I mean, just you don't get better than this. I really think I don't know if there's a way you could ever hope to be better than this. And again, all the different faces. I can't keep driving that home hard enough. How they made them all look individual from each other. Nobody looks just like somebody else. They made sure that they would each stand out on their own. And like I said, then going from normal to horrific in the span of just a few panels. It's amazing, and just that is a masterclass of storytelling. So I would definitely say, yeah, this is definitely one that I'm more than happy to own, not just because of the connection to my own past, but just the great work of Jim Aparo and what he and DiCarlo were able to do on Batman. Again, it's a high watermark for anybody, and again, happening during the Batmania period, you can't really beat that. So there we go, another one in the books, Artistry Appreciation of Jim Aparo, one of the much beloved Batman artists of, like I said, the Bronze and Copper Ages. And as you saw from this page, you can see why that is. It's totally it's totally deserved. He deserves every bit of that from this. So I hope you guys enjoyed checking that out. I hope you had some fun with that. Let me know what you think. Do you think DiCarlo was a great anchor on Aparo, or are you one of those who think that he wasn't so much? Do you think Aparo is like the preeminent Batman artist of this era, or do you think it's somebody else? Let me know what you think. Drop some comments down there. Let me hear what you got to say, because I always want to hear what the folks say. Because I don't pretend to hold all the information and all the knowledge in the world. But, I thank you all for joining me today. I'll be back soon with some more stuff. And until next time, take care.